Good afternoon. I'm really happy to share with you my teachings through this channel, Zoom channel, because it is really giving us a lot of positive effects. I hope you understand my lectures. Though you have not much responded to my lectures, I would believe that you kindly respond to the lectures by writing those essays, question answers. Furthermore, uh, today I'm going to teach you the the poem My Last Duchess. Now, My Last Duchess, written by Robert Browning. So first let's see who's this poet, Robert Browning. He belongs to the Victorian age. That means when Queen Victoria was ruling the land, England, he was a poet then. And Victorian poets are supposed to have very different kinds of poem, but Robert Browning has his own technique in representing his ideas, and they are called as dramatic monologues. You have to understand the mode of his expressions, then only you will understand the poem. So, what is this dramatic? My Last Duchess dramatic monologue is. So there are two kinds of techniques called as soliloquy and dramatic monologue. Soliloquy is when a person speaks to himself aloud, thinking about something of his past or what he should do in the future, or come sometimes repenting. They speak aloud. That is called as a soliloquy in a drama. What is a dramatic monologue? Monologue in the sense there in that a man speaks or a woman speaks, a listener is there, but we will not hear anything from the listener, or we will not may not sometimes know about the listener too. But a dialogue, that's there's not going to be any dialogue, but a single person speaks about the thing. That's called as the dramatic monologue. Now in his poems, most of his poems have this technique called as dramatic monologue, and that is very important. This poem has 28 rhymed couplets. If you go through the poem, you will know, and that is of iambic pentameter. Before I could start the poem, you should know who is a duchess and who is a duke, and how he teaches, what is this poem about. Otherwise, you will not understand the poem. So I'd like to introduce this poem called as the last Duchess. So last means it must be something about being the last one, the last previous one sometimes, or the last end. Okay, so previous last one, or the is it going to is it going to be something uh, that is the end of it? I don't know. So let's go through the poem and understand. Now, who is a duke and who is a duchess? Duke is almost equivalent to a small king, not a big king. King, in Tamil we call them as சிற்றரசர்கள். சிற்றரசர்கள். So in English they call them as Duke, and his wife is called as Duchess. So, I think this poem is about some Duchess, and that too the last Duchess, maybe the previous Duchess or the end of it, for a Duke. From first, it's the poem starts with the Ferrara. Ferrara is a land in Italian place, an European country, where this Duke must be the Duke of Ferrara. Once it was a very famous place in the past. And he's talking about his last wife, Duchess, his last wife, the previous wife he had, to somebody who is listening here in this poem. So you must understand the dramatic monologues, they'll be like dialogues speaking on, but the listener will never speak. Only the speaker will keep on speaking about his own thoughts. So here the Duke of Ferrara. So that's why Robert Browning has addressed his poem and begins his poem with the Ferrara word. It's a city. So the first two lines, that's my last Duchess, painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. So that means here, oh, that is it. Oh, that's it. That's it. So you speak to someone, you say, "That's it. It is it," and all. Oh, it is there. No, you say like those words. So that means there is a listener who's listening to him. So he's showing to him, "Oh, that is my wife. That was my wife earlier. That was my previous wife, painted on the wall. So she's no more alive, maybe, or she's well alive. We don't know. Last Duchess, she was my previous wife. Now she is painted on the wall. Just for your imagination, I have given you one kind of Duchess painting here, so you will know. So she says, looking as if she were alive. The eyes, you can see here, the eyes are so alive, and her blushes and everything is so well painted. They look so alive. So the speaker here points out the lifelike portrait of his last Duchess. It is almost like life that's painted on the wall. And this tells us that the speaker is a duke because last wife is Duchess. So the speaker must be her husband, Duke, a Duke. And that someone is listening to him describe his late wife portrait, possibly in his private art gallery. So usually kings have their own gallery where they have the paintings of their fathers, grandfathers, and all that, and of course their wives maybe. And one here, this duke has he's also having a private gallery of photos. Like today, you have an album in your galleries or in your cell phone. Those days they had galleries in one big hall where they will have the paintings of their great great grandfathers, fathers, wives, grandmothers, and little children sometimes, depends on the king. So it also makes us wonder what makes his last duchess. For more thoughts on that phrase, check out our comments in. So, why is he calling her the last duchess? Why? What is the reason? That is our first question to know the story. So he says that was my previous wife here. Or is he saying, oh, I'm not going to get married anymore? That's my last duchess. She's going to be my final one. We don't know why he's saying that. So as the poem goes, we can understand what it is. I call that peace a wonder now. Frappant of hands worked busily day and there she stands. So I've just shown you another Duchess painting here. So he says, oh, you can see that painting. No? Painting means it's completely a manual labor of a painter. And he says, can you look at that woman? She's looking. It is almost a piece of wonder, seven wonders of the world. Maybe one of those wonder, Adisaya Adisaya painting. So that is what he wants to tell him. Fra Pandolf. So who is this Fra Pandolf? This is the name of the painter who painted the famous portrait of Duke's last Duchess that is being surveyed by the Duke and his guest during the poem. So as he's speaking about, so I told you that's my wife. You better look at that. She's really, painting is really good. Fra Pandolf was painting it, and you just see how he has painted it so real, and it seems to be very real. We are told how busily Frau Pandav hands worked to create this masterpiece. So he's telling the listener, oh, just look at he worked busily every day, and there she stands. However, it is also important to note that Frau Pandav, who is a character that we never meet in person, during the course of the poem, is also used to signify the obsessive jealousy of the Duke. I don't know, but that feeling, it hasn't come. But he says, just look at the painting. It is so beautiful. It is so alive. But the artist, whoever painted it, painted it very busily, a day and night. And she was standing there. You know, those days, no, for a selfie, you can stand for a second, or for giving a pose for a photography, you can stand for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, maybe a minute. But those days when they were painting, they have to stand for a day, two, three, and the dresses, everything has to be same. The painter, and as long as the painter paints it faster. Here he says busily a day, so maybe in a single day he painted it. And Frau Pondorf, he says, there she stands. So she's so alive. He says, look at her. She was standing there, and this fellow was painting, maybe like that. The tone was there. Was maybe he's so jealous or possessive of that duchess. It says she was standing there and he was painting for the whole day, and it is a wonderful picture. That's what he wants to make there. Um, so in the next lines, we say, "Will it please you sit and look at her?" So the Duke is asking the listener, "Can you sit down and look at her?" The Duke asks his listener politely to sit down and examine the painting. But the politeness is somewhat fake, you know. He said, "Can you sit down and just look at her, my last wife? Why? Why? What's the reason?" And the question seems more like a command. Could the listener refuse to sit down and look and listen? We don't think so. So here yeah, I don't know. The listener must have been fretting himself and frustrated. Why is this fellow showing his last wife? What was the reason? He says, "You look and sit and see her. See how beautiful she is. How beautiful the painter has painted her, and she's almost alive when you see that." That's what he's saying. So said Prof again is talking to Fra Pandolf. So the dramatic monologue. So the he's telling the listener, "Fra Pandolf by descent for never read strangers like you that pictured countenance. This painting was done by Fra Pandolf, but I have never shown any strangers like you her countenance." What is pictured countenance? Pictured means painted. Countenance means the face of the Duchess. I've never shown anyone. The depth and passion, the way he has brought it out so alive, the deepness and the passion of its earnest glance. But to myself they turned, since none puts my curtain that I have drawn for you. Nobody has touched this curtain. They have never removed the curtain. They have never drawn the curtain and seen the picture. I'm only showing it to you. But to myself they turned and seemed as they would ask me if they durst how such a glance came there. So not the first are you to turn us. So why is he asking him to sit down and watch the poem, watch the Duchess, so that he can question him? What is it? Why was the Duchess glancing like that? That glance has such a passion, and what was that between her and Frau Pandolf? What is that there? So people will ask, so I've closed it with a curtain. Now, you are not the first one to go. You're going to ask me thus. So I don't know if the listener asked him such a question, but he's just giving his own ideas, his own presumptions. And he says, "I have not shown this picture of Duchess to anyone. The what Frau Pandolf has designed this poem. I've not shown it to anyone. The deep and depth and passion on his face, the expression on the Duchess' face is not shown to anyone else. So because this is my gallery, nobody has seen her face. Please don't ask me any question. Why is she looking at like this? What does that look mean? And all those kinds of questions I don't want you to ask me." So he's just nobody is asked, nobody is allowed to answer that question. So it was not her husband's presence only. Her husband's presence only called that spot of joy into the Duchess's cheek. So he's just bring out something. Can you see something on her cheek? Those spot here, mostly in all the pictures I've shown you that spot, but here it will be there. Uh, can you see that spot? And it is called as blushing, blushing of a woman when she sees a man. So, so first he says, "I don't want anybody to look at her glance and tell me that why is she looking at, whom is she looking at with such passion." And usually women blush when they see their wives, sorry, husbands or their lovers. But I don't know how that spot of joy into the Duchess. How could that painter bring out that blushes on her face? I don't know. But she always blushes, even if she doesn't, even if her husband is not there. Only it doesn't come only when her husband is there, but even it comes when her husband is not there. So perhaps a slight blush of pleasure was given on her face. So the painter has painted it so real that he doubts the woman. He's doubting why is she blushing when he sees she's a painter. Was it just her husband's presence that made her blush in this way? Although the Duke seems to believe that it should have been the only thing that would. The Duke doesn't like the idea that anyone else might compliment his wife or do something sweet that would make her blush. So he doesn't like the idea. He's so possessive and obsessed about her that whatever she does was not easy for her. Perhaps for a fond of chance to say, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much, or paint must never hope to reproduce the faint, half blush that dies along her throat. Such stuff was courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. So why does she have that kind of joy that brings that blush on her face? Maybe when maybe the painter said, Fairpandaf, the painter said, a mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much. Maybe mantle is some kind of covering they use, a shawl. Maybe have I got it in mind? A shawl. Here you can see that. I don't see it anyway. Yeah, this one. Maybe this mantle, that kind of thing they put over their frocks. Maybe due to season, sometimes for design sake. And so he does. Maybe that painter would like to do. Maybe that painter said, "Oh, your mantle is there too much on your wrist. Maybe you should remove it a little so I can paint it well." Maybe because of that, she blushed with joy. Did she have anything like that? And Oh, why did the why and when why did the painter put that the blush doesn't stop there, that half of her blush is flushed on dye along her throat. It is coming to her throat. Such stuff was courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. Maybe because the painter spoke to her so that your thing is not mantle is there over your wrist. Maybe you should move it up a little so I can paint it well. Or that maybe have produced some kind of blush on her and it was going on throughout. And he's reproduced that in that painting. So what? And you know what? Maybe my wife, the last Duchess, thought so. Okay, since he's saying so, I must show some blush. I must blush a little. That is manners. And that is why it was reproduced. Duke imagines some of the ways that Frau Pondorf might have caused the Duchess to get that spot of joy in her face. He might have told her that her mantle, that is her shawl, covered her wrist too much, which is the Renaissance equivalent of saying, "Man, that skirt's way too long. Maybe you should hike it up a little. You should wear a short skirt." So he says, maybe that was the Renaissance period, and that is why she felt so. Oh, so it is the imagination. Maybe he's only imagining that maybe the painter should have spoken to her, the artist must have spoken to her to move her wrist a little or move the mantle on her wrist a little. That is why she blushed, and that blush was flushed through her throat, and it is reproduced in the painting. I've shown you some picture of the real Duke and Duchess here of England. You can go and find out who they are. Or he might have complimented her on the becoming way that she flushes, telling her that paint must never hope to be reproduce the beautiful effect of her skin and coloring. So Duke thinks that the Duchess would have thought that comments like this, the normal flirtatious. So she wasn't. She was not this. She was flirtatious. That noblemen would play a noblewoman, pay to noblemen, but cause enough to blush. So strangely, the Duke seemed to believe that blushing in response to someone like Frog comments with the judgmental Pandolf was a decision, not an involuntary physical reaction. Notice that the Duke also seems to infuse his tone. So here again, yeah, I put a picture where there's blush and there's throat. It is flushing through her throat here, and the our little Duke is really upset because of that. Why should she blush before a painter? Not it should be. She should only blush before me, and not before a painter. And even if that painter has commented so, she's a noble woman, no? She's a wife of a duke. She must not have done this so. So that must have been there. She had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad on, and her looks went everywhere, too easily impressed. She liked whatever she looked. Now he is just memories come back about the Duchess. Or is he trying to justify some of her characterization, which he was not happy about? He says, she had a heart, how shall I say? Oh, her character was such, her heart was such, too soon made glad. If anybody says anything, she'll be happy. If anybody does anything, she'll be very happy. Wow, wow, wow. And she keeps on repeating it. And her looks went everywhere. No, she wasn't walking like a noble woman who doesn't look anywhere, walk straight with her eyes straight, with pride and a hearty walk. He says she looked everywhere, she laughed at everything, she was happy about everything, too easily impressed. She liked whatever she looked. You can impress her with anything. So she because she's wow, it's good. You show her something, she will say, wow, wow, wow. It's really good, nice, very good, and all this kind of stuff that worried the Duke much. She was so easy, he thought so. She's so easy. Why should she be happy at everything? She's now a Duchess. She must walk with pride and hearty look that no man can just tell her, okay, let me give her this, she'll be happy. No. Duke describes the Duchess as a too soon made glad. That's easy woman, too easily impressed. This is his main problem with her. Too many things make her happy. Another way of looking at, she likes everything she sees and she sees everything. It is not that she's not serious enough. She doesn't savor a spot of joy for him alone. She's not the discriminating snob that he wants her to be. So he wants her to be a snobbish woman who will not be happy at everything, who will have their own problem, who will say, okay, yeah, like that. It's really cute, no? And then they enjoy everything. Then he says, okay, she's an easy woman. I don't like that. Sir, it was all alone my favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bough of cherries some officious foot broken in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her like the approving speech, or blush at least. So it was all one, my favor at her breast. I mean, my she was whenever I was happy with her, she was very happy, and that was equal to the dropping of the daylight in the west. When she went and saw a sunset, she was very happy when she saw a sunset. And same way, way how she was happy with me. And then if some officious fool, clowns in the court, when they bring the bough of cherries, I've shown you a branch of cherries here, broke in the orchard for her. Somebody brooks it off. Look at this Duchess, how beautiful it is. If a clown brings it, she's very happy. She's very happy with him whenever she's with him, enjoying him. She's happy when there is a sunset. She's very happy when some fool brings her brings her a branch of cherry, and then she rode with round the terrace. All and each would draw from her like the approving speech or blush at least. So she was very happy when she used to take a walk on the terrace on a white mule. It's usually like a donkey that lives mostly in the Middle East countries. So when she was going around on that and on the terrace, on the higher up, she was happy. She was happy with me. She was happy with because see, looking at this beautiful sunset. She was happy when a fool brought her, when a clown brought her this bunch of orchard, a cherry from the orchard, that is a garden, and all that she saw, she was approving. Speech. Wow, it's really good. I really enjoyed that. She was easy with all that. And at least she would blush. At least she would blush at everything. She never left anything undone without any compliments. She was always happy at everything. I don't know if she was happy with me in the same way. Duke elaborates further on the Duchess' tendency to see everything pleasant thing as pretty much the same. If he gives her a favor or mark of his esteem that she can wear, such as a corsage or a piece of jewelry, she thanks him for it in the same way that she approves of a pretty sunset, a branch of cherries, or a white mule. At first, the Duke suggests that she speaks of all these things equally, but then he changes his clients and admits sometimes she doesn't say anything and just blushes in that special way. So he thinks in a reality or okay, the Duke's imagination, we don't know, that she was very promiscuous woman who would just go easy on with anything. She was not a woman who could discriminate the reality. So officials, even she would be happy with the fool, clown, when he brings her something. So that was his, we don't know if it is his imagination or really the Duchess was so. But the poems, the Duke says so. She thanked men good, but thanked somehow, I know not how, as if she ranked my gift of 900 years old name with anybody's gift. So when people bring her anything, she would thank them, be grateful to them so much. And they were all equal to the gift I give her, which is 900 years old, an antique, which is really precious. And it was equal to anybody's gift because she was thanking everybody the same way she used to thank me. So, how was it different? She's an easy, promiscuous woman. So, the Duke claims that although it is well and good to thank people for doing things for you, the way the Duchess thanked people seemed to imply that she thought the little favors they did her was just as important as what the Duke himself did for her. So those people used to do little favor, and what the Duke did was almost uh, very precious. But even then, she would be the same. She would enjoy the same way. There was no discrimination with her. After all, the Duke gave her his 900 years old name, a connection to a long standing aristocratic family with power and prestige. The Duke's family has been around for nearly 1,000 years running this things in Ferrara, and he thinks this makes him superior to the Duchess, who doesn't have the same heritage. He thinks the Duchess ought to have valued the social evaluation of her marriage over the simple pleasures of life. So his main blame was that she was an easy woman. She thought everything was equal, and everything made her happy. So this he couldn't accept. She was not discriminated. Who'd stoop to blame this sort of trifling? So the Duke asked his listener to rhetorical question: who would actually lower himself and bother to have an argument with the Duchess? So I never argued with her because of her character, though it annoyed me about her indiscriminate behavior. He thinks the answer is nobody. We don't think that there is much open and honest communication in this relation. So we, through this lines, who'd stoop means who'd come as low as all that to the ask the Duchess, why are you doing so? Why do you think everything is equal? Why are you not showing any discrimination? I never argued with her. That's it. He says through these two lines. Hmm. So the Duke lists all the obstacles prevented him from talking to the Duchess directly about his problems with her. Oh, sir, she smiled, no doubt, whenever I passed her. But who passed without much the same smile? So she used to smile at me whenever I crossed her, or whenever I see her by accident, or whenever I had any event with her. She would smile at me, and I would, ah, that's great. Then I saw always she's smiling at anyone who crossed her. So what is so precious about her smile? That's what I couldn't believe. So this grew, I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. The Duke claims that this grew. So she started, I was becoming annoyed. A lot of things where her character was so annoying that she was no different from other ladies, other common ladies. She was not discriminating herself. She was smiling at everyone. She was thanking everyone. She was happy with everyone as she was with me. So I don't think I wasn't happy with her. Neither did I argue with her. Neither did I advise her not to do so. This grew and kept on growing that I gave commands. What kind of commands he gave her? It is, and then all smiles stopped together. When I gave the command, maybe he killed her. And that's why she's the last Duchess who's in the painting. Maybe we don't know whether she really, but something happened that no more smiles. That means the 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 painting. The Duchess was in the point. Here we have this ambiguous point saying that he gave some command, whether he killed her or not, we don't know. But then there she was no more. There she stands as if alive. Will it please you rise? So just look at her. This is the story of the last Duchess. The Duke ends the story of the Duchess and her painting by gesturing toward the full body portrait again, in which she stands as if alive. Can you look at that? She's so alive in that painting. It means she's dead, but maybe he killed her because of her character. He couldn't understand her. Neither did she want. Did he want her to be changed? So he didn't do anything with that. So we'll meet the company below then. So there is somebody downstairs, and he's showing his gallery to this man, whoever the listener was. And come on, let's go and meet those people who are there down. The Duke invites the listener to get up and go back downstairs to the rest of the company. Maybe this is a polite invitation. We can't imagine anything refusing. I repeat, the Count your master's known munificence is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed. Though his fair daughter's self, as I vowed, as starting is my object. So Duke is talking to this guy. His listener is the servant of some kind of a count, maybe the person who's next to there, and he's wooing the count's daughter. Right now, he is in love with the count's daughter. So the Duke tells the servant that he knows about the count's wealth and generosity or munificence. So generosity of the count I know very well. So he expects to get any reasonable dowry he asks for. I know he will give me anything. But his main object in the negotiation is the doctor herself, not more money. So I want his daughter. I know the generosity, he will do everything for me. But now I need to know, have the negotiation. You now understand why I killed my previous wife. So how should the daughter be? I want the daughter. Nay, we'll go together down, sir. So Duke listener seems to try to get away from him as the now this fellow the listener was frightened. My God, this man killed his wife because of her character and he was trying to get away. Then he says, no, 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 wait for me. I'm going to come with you down to meet the other parties down there to kill this wife. Notice Neptune, though, taming a seahorse, thought a rarity which Claus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. So, this picture I've given you, the seahorse, and Neptune is supposed to be the god of fresh river in the Roman religion. And here there's a story that this god Neptune tamed the seahorse. Seahorse is supposed to be in the sea, a kind of a horse-like animal, which was a very rare one. And Claus of Innsbruck had given him as a gift, and he has cast it in bronze and given it to me. So that means that I love to tame people. I love to tame people. So don't worry about it. So before the Duke and his listening leave the gallery, Duke points out one more of his art object, a bronze statue of the god of the sea taming a seahorse. The Duke mentions the name of the artist who cast the statue, Claus of Innsbruck, who made it specially for him. So as I've given you the reference for Neptune, a god of fresh water and the sea in Roman religion, is the counterpart of a Greek god called as Poseidon. Neptune was the brother of Jupiter and Pluto. The brothers presided over the nations, realms of heaven, the earthly world and the underworld. Celestia was his consort. Depiction of Neptune in Roman mosaics usually. Those of North Africa are influence of Antarctica. So Neptune was likely associated with freshwater springs. So you can see him, usually he's given with this kind of picture where he tames the seahorse. So he's usually called as the god of horses. So thank you for listening to this poem, The Last Duchess. It's a sad story of a duchess who never understood her position of aristocracy. That is what the poet says, or the duke says. She was very easy, and for being such a high position, she never understood that. She was very easy and enjoying everything. And I never tamed him. I never tamed her. I just killed her. So that's really astonishing for Robert Browning to have written this poem saying that how much a jealousy in man can do, the obsession of the beauty of the woman, but still he wants her for himself. That's possessiveness. But still, there is also, I think you should understand what is and what is very important for a woman to be depends on her relationship with the man, understanding the man she has married. Thank you.